Few voices in music history match the power of Linda Ronstadt. Dubbed the First Lady of Rock, she sold over 100 million albums worldwide. Her rich, sultry vocals didn't just top charts, they mesmerized generations. Across 5 decades, she conquered every genre in her path: pop, country, Broadway, even Spanish ballads. Her first Spanish-language album? One of the best-selling ever recorded. Linda Ronstadt wasn't just a singer. She was, and still is, a force.
She spent decades letting the world believe she had no enemies. But now at 79, Linda Ronstadt is naming names. 8 musicians, she says, betrayed her, disrespected her, and broke her silence forever. And the names aren't who you expect. From drunken stage disasters to quiet betrayals by so-called friends, this isn't the Linda Ronstadt story you thought you knew. Stay tuned to hear the 8 names she never forgave. The drummer who turned ruthless, Don Henley. Los Angeles, mid-70s, Linda Ronstadt, the queen of the stage, had a young drummer backing her up, a quiet guy named Don Henley. She gave him his first real break touring coast to coast. But as the Eagles took flight, something changed. Fame got to him fast. One night backstage, Henley crossed a line that Linda never forgot. He sneered at her musical direction, saying she should stick to covers and let real songwriters speak. The insult wasn't just brutal, it was public. Right there, Linda revoked his tour credentials. No argument, no second chance. Never disrespect the person who opened your first door. Years later, Linda called Henley a climber who lost his soul chasing fame. His betrayal taught her, sometimes success doesn't change people, it reveals them. Jim Morrison's public humiliation. 1968, a smoky after-party near the Whiskey A Go-Go. Linda Ronstadt was still fighting for respect in a male-dominated scene. Enter Jim Morrison, shirt half open, drink in hand, ego overflowing. Without warning, mid-performance, he dragged Linda on stage and tried to kiss her in front of the entire crowd. She recoiled. He stumbled. Microphones crashed. And with that, a private nightmare began circulating as public legend. Morrison never apologized. Instead, he mocked her in interviews, calling her sweet but spineless. To Linda, he wasn't just reckless, he was dangerous. She later called him a brilliant wreck who poisoned everything around him. Some legends aren't heroes, they're warnings. That night taught Linda a lesson many women in music knew too well. Fame doesn't excuse humiliation. The activist who turned critic, Neil Young, 1976. A charity concert for farm workers, a cause Linda Ronstadt believed in deeply. Sharing the stage with Neil Young should have been a moment of unity. Instead, it became one of betrayal. Backstage, Neil blocked her from performing certain songs, dismissed her suggestions, and later told the press Linda wasn't built for protest. His message? She wasn't authentic enough to fight for the cause she supported. She left that night in tears, and behind closed doors called him loud in message, cruel in execution. They never shared a stage again. True activism lifts voices. It doesn't silence them. For Linda, the betrayal cut deeper than any critic's review. It came from someone she once respected. Brutal genius, Frank Zappa. In 1974, Linda Ronstadt stepped into the studio with Frank Zappa, hoping for magic. Instead, she walked straight into a nightmare. From the first note, Zappa belittled her. He called her voice too sanitized and her style a jingle fit for car commercials. Then came the moment she never forgot. Mid-session, in front of every musician, Zappa stopped the music, sneered, and said,
"This is what happens when you hand real music to a pop singer."
The room froze. Linda didn't argue. She packed up and left. That was the end of their collaboration and their friendship. Sometimes silence is the loudest answer to cruelty. She later called Zappa brilliant but brutal, a genius she could never trust again. David Crosby, from brother to betrayer. Once upon a time in Laurel Canyon, David Crosby and Linda Ronstadt weren't just collaborators, they were like family. But in 1978, one simple request shattered that bond. During a recording session, Linda asked for a key change to fit her voice. Crosby refused. His reason? You should learn to adapt. And then it got worse. Days later, Crosby slammed her publicly in Rolling Stone, calling Linda manufactured. For an artist who built her career on pure, raw talent, it was a public dagger. Linda didn't respond in interviews. She didn't need to. She banned his name from her world forever. Some betrayals hurt more when they come from family. Privately, she called Crosby a cautionary tale, proof that ego and fame can rot even the brightest minds. If these stories shocked you, hit that like button. It helps more than you know. Which betrayal hurt Linda most in your opinion? Drop your guess in the comments. Her silence lasted decades, but your voice can break it today. Elvis Costello's public insult. 1979, Cleveland. Linda Ronstadt was at her peak. Chart-topping albums, sold-out shows. But in a single moment, Elvis Costello turned her triumph into humiliation. In front of reporters, Costello sneered,
Her set? Background music for brunch.
The insult spread like wildfire. Backstage, Linda confronted him, hoping for clarity, or maybe even an apology. She got neither. He looked her in the eye, threw another insult, and walked away. For Linda, that moment wasn't just about one rude man. She saw Costello as a symbol. Clever artists using cruelty as their currency. Brilliance without empathy, just arrogance in disguise. That night, Linda closed the chapter on Costello, for good. Paul Simon, perfection or control? In 1982, Linda Ronstadt and Paul Simon seemed destined to create something iconic. Instead, the collaboration dissolved into quiet disaster. From the first session, Simon nitpicked every phrase, every note. He rewrote lyrics without telling her. He interrupted takes to correct things that didn't need correcting. Linda later described it as being scolded by a principal. Eventually, the song was shelved, unfinished, unreleased, and unspoken of. But to Linda, the damage wasn't about the track. It was about being treated as less than. Collaboration requires respect, not control disguised as perfection. After that, she vowed, never again would she step into a studio with Paul Simon. Stevie Nicks, a sisterhood that shattered. On stage, they looked like kindred spirits. Offstage, it was another story. In the late 70s, Linda Ronstadt and Stevie Nicks were hailed as the queens of rock, a new era of women breaking through in a male world. But success turned sisterhood into silent rivalry. Linda once invited Stevie to collaborate on a track, a duet that could have made history. But behind the scenes, Nicks backed out, not with honesty, but avoidance. She ghosted Linda, rejecting sessions without explanation. Word later reached Linda that Stevie considered the song beneath her brand. For Linda, it wasn't the rejection, it was the disrespect. Someone she viewed as a peer saw her as competition, and rather than say it, Stevie vanished. To this day, Linda describes Stevie Nicks not with anger, but with sadness. A friendship that could have been, lost in the shadows of ego and fear. Look closer at Linda's betrayals and you'll spot a pattern. Most came from people she once trusted. Don Henley, Neil Young, David Crosby, friends, not strangers. Fame didn't create their egos, it exposed them. Behind Linda Ronstadt's legendary voice was a story no one heard, until now. 8 betrayals, 8 scars, and 1 lesson. Grace doesn't mean silence forever. Which name shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments. And if you're ready for more untold stories from music's hidden past, hit subscribe. Your next revelation is just 1 click away.